Hi friends, it's Olga. Welcome to Be Blog. Today I want to tell you about my 5 months on-site visit to California. My first business trip happened 5 years ago. I had to go to California and stay on site for 3 months. The idea was I had to get to know the customer, obtain the knowledge of their ecosystem and transfer it to a offshore team. I never was in US before and to tell the truth I never thought I would. The horror of the situation was that I had to go alone. I was new to the project and I had no experience of working on site. Nevertheless, I got my American visa, packed my stuff and made a 32 hours long trip from Ukraine to California. Here, I have to say that I was not prepared for that trip. I had almost zero information, didn't know what to expect. Instead, I had lots of stereotypes about the US that have nothing to do with reality. The first challenge I faced was a 10 hours time difference between the Ukraine and California and the jet lag that caught me right at the airport. By the time I passed the control, I almost fainted. So when the officer asked me who am I and what is the goal of my visit, I barely talked. The only thing that convinced him to let me in was a supporting letter from my company with the details of my trip goal and duration. It took me about 3 weeks before I adapted to the new time zone and could function normally. The next surprise was waiting me right at the corner. I thought the US is a country of skyscrapers and I expected to see them in California, but on my way from the airport to the hotel I haven't seen a single. Later I found California is a sunshine state with excellent beaches, tropical plants and beautiful ocean full of sea lions, whales, dolphins and surfers. It is a land of two-story buildings and with the population of 40 million people it is enormous. It takes people hours to get from home to office and back by the car and they get used to it. I also found there is a very poor public transportation, like almost nothing. So if you go to any American city except probably New York, make sure you have driving license. It is critical. On my first trip I was not able to drive and it was a huge problem. Luckily for me, my hotel was near the office, but my movements around the city were limited. The first thing I did back in Ukraine, I got my driving license and it significantly improved my experience in all subsequent trips to the US. The next surprise happened right in the taxi. When I paid to the driver at the end of the trip, he asked me for the tips. As I found later, in the US you have to tip every time you get a service. And it is not only at the restaurants, but you also tip when you take a taxi, make your nails or wash your car. Everywhere. The minimum tip is 10% and it can be up to 30%. Also, the price tag doesn't show taxes, so with taxes and tips, be prepared to pay way more. By the time I get to the hotel, my laptop was discharged, so I decided to charge it just before I go to bed, and here is when I got a new surprise, American socket. Again, I was not prepared. Luckily for me, the lady at the hotel reception found one adapter and gave it to me. The next day I arrived at the customer's office, where I first met the product team from the customer's side, and it was the next most pleasant surprise. Californians are great, they are friendly, supportive, open-minded, smiling people. It was a great pleasure to communicate with them, both in the office and out of work. They did their best to facilitate my adoption and onboarding. And it was not only my co-workers. People smiled to me wherever I appeared. At the street, at the supermarket, in the pharmacy, everywhere. They sometimes ask me if everything is okay because I looked gloomy and focused most of the time. So So my advice to you, when you go to California, don't forget to smile. Another quite useful skill I adopted there is to keep up these small talks. In the US, a small talk is a necessary part of any communication, just like say hello or goodbye. It is also a prerequisite before any business talk. People ask some general questions like how are you, how was your weekend, and no one expects to get a detailed report. They just show they care. It is also essential to keep up small talks at the coffee point or during lunch. I have to say it was not easy for me, especially at the beginning. So I used a trick. I asked multiple questions instead of leading the conversation. People impose talking about themselves, their country, culture, food, places to see, things to do. It is always beneficial for you. From the one hand, you get tons of interesting, useful information and make a deep dive into a new culture. From the other hand, you make a good impression as a good listener. The next broken stereotype was food. I thought they eat hot dogs, hamburgers and pizza, and they do, but besides this they have a variety of food from different parts of the world. I traveled a lot, but I never seen such abundance in any other country. In California, I first tried Thai food, Mexican food, Vietnam food. They have tons of healthy options for vegetarians, vegans, kosher food, halal food, and God knows what. Talking about the restaurants, if you want to order any alcohol drink, be prepared to prove you are 21 or over. Americans always show their driving license. I didn't have license, so I showed my passport, confusing the waiter, because Americans use their passport only when they travel abroad. For all other cases, including the local flights within the country, they use the driving license. The next broken stereotype was about the language. I thought all Americans are native speakers and I was worried about my English. In reality, like 80% of people I met were immigrants from different parts of the world. Some of them moved with their parents when they were kids. Others moved being students. Some arrived to the US just a couple of years before. They all speak different English with their own pronunciation. I was told my English is fine as long as people can understand it. My first impression of Southern California was powerful and positive. The next year I had another 2-month-long trip. That time I came prepared. I had my driving license. I thought that I know what to expect and nothing would surprise me. And I was wrong. First of all, I made a short trip to San Francisco, Northern California, and I realized it differs from Southern California like another country, starting from climate, ending to architecture and atmosphere. It was gorgeous in its own way, but absolutely different. Foggy, rainy, 15 degrees colder, no palms, but amazing, incredibly beautiful modern city with the breathtaking views. I started to drive the car and I realized that driving in the US is not the same as driving in Ukraine. When I first appeared at the freeway with the 6 lanes one way and 80 miles movement speed, I was so stressed that I probably lost 2 kilos before I arrived at the office. The first week I crashed the rental car right in the parking lot. I was stressed and confused. I expected to have a big headache with police, rental office and insurance company. When I called to the rental office, they asked me if anyone was hurt. Fortunately, it was only my car damaged, so they told me that I can return it and get another one anytime. That's it. They took the damaged car and gave me the keys to the new one, and it took me like 5 minutes. all the damage was covered by the insurance company and it was not my problem anymore. In a couple of weeks I caught cold and I decided to go to pharmacy to get some medication the way we do it in Ukraine. I was surprised to find Coca-Cola, snacks, cigarettes and wine there, just like in grocery store. I also found that I can't buy any medication without prescription. So I had to go to urgent care first to get the prescription from the doctor and then get my pills in a specific pharmacy. So in total I spent about 5 months in California. It was like landing on another planet. A lot of impressions and lessons learned. It was my incredible experience I share with you today. Let me know if it was interesting. I am waiting for your comments and questions. Good luck and see you soon.